Thanks for staying with us. We still have our guest with us here. Tokwe had a question.
Yes. I was going to ask about, I was trying to do a build-up, but really, I want to ask about the comment you made during the break, because you said that there were some other girls that were not Chibok girls, but they ended up being used as Boko Haram suicide bombers, and it was failed. So we were able to capture those girls. Please tell us a bit about the story, because whenever we hear suicide bomber, they feel like these people are criminals or something. But what was it like talking to someone who had a failed suicide bombing situation?
So I start again, like the Chibok girls, I started tracking the failed suicide bombers in 2015. They found 2 women in Cameroon, and they apparently said one of them claimed she was a Chibok girl. So my summation now with hindsight is that she probably was familiar with the groups who may have abducted the Chibok girls. And there was a whole thing of were they Chibok girls? And I said, look, it's a simple thing. The parents are still alive. Why don't you try and get the parents to identify and see? When they came back, they said, no, she was not a Chibok girl. But when we first saw the photographs, it was difficult to identify because she had been beaten. When I say beaten, she had been beaten black and blue. Eventually, when she had, the swellings had subsided, she was 12 years old. She was a 12-year-old child. And that was when I started tracking them. I called a friend of mine who is a very well-known psychologist, does a lot of work with women involved with terrorism, Dr. Fatai Kilo, and she used to be in the National Security Advisor's Office. I'm like, what's going on with the female suicide bombers as well, the failed ones? And she said, if it's beating them, that is a problem. She says, we have come across at least 40, but we can't track them. So that now became another issue. I started saying, look, we need to track. We can't. Girls as young as 7
are being used as suicide bombers.
Yes, and when you then look at the statistics, in the entire history of the world, I'm going to repeat this, Boko Haram has used more women and girls as suicide bombers than any other group.
Oh my God.
So if you look at, for example, the Tamil Tigers of Sri Lanka, for example, in 10 years, and they were quite notorious, in 10 years used about 10. The last time the economists tracked it, in 7 years, Boko Haram had used almost 300 women and girls. And when and that's also the unfortunate thing. Again, it's not known. People are not talking about it. But you're seeing pictures of girls, 7, 8. There's a girl who had 3 missions. The first one, she was so young that the battery fell out of her remote control. And she couldn't, so they were in a group of about 4 or 5. She couldn't put it back. She couldn't reach her handler. By the time she finally got herself sorted out, the others had detonated in a mosque in Maiduguri. So she was now taken into Giwa barracks. After a few years, she was rehabilitated. She was released. By that time, her parents had separated. Her father had remarried. Her mother had remarried. And her stepfather said he didn't want a Boko Haram child. So they released her and she made her way back to Sambisa Forest. This time they married her off to a commander. He taught her, and her guardian actually taught her how to use munitions. She started building munitions. She was killing. So you've gone from an innocent girl who didn't have a clue to one
criminal.
Radicalized.
Because
radicalized, and that's the fright. Sorry, go on.
No, that's what I was going to say, because a lot of these girls now develop the Stockholm syndrome.
Yes.
And
because the terrorists would always accept them. It is in the society that they see them as, some of these people were not terrorists. These people are victims. They are survivors. But then the society doesn't accept them. The terrorists welcome them back. And where they will call home is who is welcoming them.
Recently, we were talking about a story about Wadume. I don't know if you know Wadume was a kidnapper that was received. Was celebrated when he came back. And this was because while he was a kidnapper, he was giving back to the community. Yeah. He was building boreholes, he was helping. So he was a hero, like a Robin Hood sort of for his community. And we've seen that these kidnappers have somewhat served the communities they live in. In your view, how do you think we can reconcile community and banditry? Because some of these bandits live with this. What suggestion would you give to government in how to ensure that these communities are also responsible to whistle blow on these bandits, on these kidnappers, against the atrocities they commit in the communities?
So I think that's really important. And I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so I always talk about the importance of the law in this. We cannot treat everybody that has been involved in a homogeneous way. And that's a problem we have even with the Boko Haram. So, you know, you have repentant Boko Haram fighters who are just being integrated into the community. They're not going through a legal process. It's difficult to know who actually did what. I think the law has to play its part. And we have to have a zero tolerance if you've committed a crime. We see it even in peacetime. You know, we see it generally in Nigeria. We have to have a zero. If you've committed a crime, take people through the process of the law. If there's a mitigating factor that will maybe reduce your sentence or whatever, it's one issue. The other issue is that the reason why these people can do what they're doing is that we have too many ungoverned spaces in Nigeria.
I like that.
Do you understand? Too many ungoverned spaces in Nigeria. So, you know, that is why a bandit can be king in his... Because there's no local government, there's no water, there's no light, there's no food. The second most dangerous one is we have a lot of ungoverned minds. We have children in Nigeria now, millions ungoverned minds, who have never seen the inside walls of a classroom. I have met women who have been failed suicide bombers, who have had neither secular nor religious education. What do you expect when somebody picks her up? Do you understand what I'm saying? Her mind is fertile, her head is fertile ground for anything. You're not even trying to combat any preconceived ideas that the person has. So until we start to understand that as a nation, we have a collective responsibility to all of our citizens, these are the kind of gaps they're going to see. Islamic State was...
deeper issue.
Yeah. Islamic State West Africa problems is huge. Everybody thinks, what are you talking about? 2015, as far back as 2015, Sheikh and al-Baghdadi signed an alliance. ISIS aligned with Boko Haram, right? When they were having challenges with people going to Syria and all of ISIS territories, ISIS started telling them, go to Islamic State West Africa province. It's a province, it's very, you know, it's difficult to delineate, but there's a general view that it's within some of the enclaves of Sambisa, and will be the Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. They have an army, they have territory, and so on, yes.
You know, I hear what you're saying, because a lot of these young kids, there's so many of them, no education whatsoever.
Nothing.
They're just, and no,
Just roaming around.
They haven't, no form of governance. Their governments are the Boko Haram, are the kidnappers. But let me leave that and deviate a bit. I want to talk about Leah Shaibu. Have you heard about her? Because she is another one. She was taken with the Dapchi girls, and she was the only one that wasn't released. It's how many years now? I'm not sure how many years, but I feel very sorry for her. I feel even more sorry for her parents, you know, because there is no word about her.
So it's... Leah Sharibu's case is exceptionally tragic because out of all of them, she was the only one who didn't make it back. But we also must remember that 5 girls also got killed and their bodies never made it back to Dapchi. So you have parents also who actually don't know what happened to their children. Kids. My view generally is, but I'm not really sure with Leah, but what tends to happen is that when the girls are first taken, right? Sometimes there's a rush to marry them off, to select. Do you understand what I'm saying? And a lot of sexual assault happens very, very quickly. And I believe sometimes that's why you hear of girls who are just not able somehow for them to return. And as far as we know, Leah has actually had children now. So clearly she's been married off to a commander. And believe you me, for every Chibok girl, for every Dapchi girl that has gone, there are at least 10 other women and girls that are unaccounted for that have been lost to the community.
That's what I think one of the most important things that I've heard you say today is when Tope asked about what's the new message, what's the new advocacy, and it's about let us account for these people.
Yeah.
Let us know where they are, who they're with. If they choose to stay, it's fine, but at least we know that you are there. So it's critical. Talking about accountability, in your own view, has the government provided any document to say this is who we have? I mean, is there any reference for us to say, okay, we know these amounts are back, we know these amounts are over there, though we don't know exactly where they are exactly, but we know these amounts. Do we have those data with us as a government?
Not as far as I know. And it's part of the data that the foundation has collected, and that's why we're releasing the report today. Even in terms of the failed suicide bombers, that's one of the things that really breaks my heart, is that we don't even, they're not documented. At least with the Chibok girls, we are now, we've documented them, so we know how many there are, we know how many we're clamoring for. For those ones, they're not documented, so we don't even know whose children they are, how they, so it's only the ones that make it back as failed suicide bombers that we can document. It's really, really, really sad. Our people cannot be faceless. You know, victim, do you understand? I mean, it's actually, you know, further entrenches their victimhood. How can you be faceless to our community? And the other thing I noticed that it's also happening with the recent spate of kidnappings is underreporting. That needs to change. I need to talk about that. How do you so tell me something. If a group abducts 500 people and you underreport and you say they only took 300, please tell me what's going to happen to the remaining 200. Do you think they're going to return them? So we actually find people are literally invisible.
Man, I feel like we're over-reporting than we're always over-report the number than under-report. I'm surprised to hear you're saying under-reporting, because I just assumed that because we don't have data, there's no, I think they've told me to stop saying we don't have data. We have data, but we don't trust the data that comes out. Same way you're saying the number is being underreported. I was of the opinion that the number is being inflated.
Let me take this call. Chief Carlos, been holding for a minute. Good morning, Chief Carlos. You're live.
Yeah, good morning, Morales.
Good morning, sir.
How are you, everybody?
Fine, thank you. Good morning.
I want to really ashamed of myself to have this kind of discussion here. Honestly speaking, if you know how much the Yaradua located for this program, in the sense of Boko Haram, Goodluck the same thing, also the black past president, and we're still on this. Moriah, I'm telling you, and I'm sure that Nigeria can never be blue, whether we like it or not.
Okay.
Because it's not fair that if they have told you how much they have located for all those areas, all those packaging, they serve the West African governments. But at the end of the day, talking about you and all those things. Who is deceiving who? Who is deceiving who in Nigeria? Look at what happened to Okoma community. The whole country was born, the whole village. Nobody, they can't discover who is doing all those things. Now, tomorrow is really done. Next tomorrow will be, the other day will be Zamfara.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I couldn't hear. I hope that our viewers at home can hear him.
I think they can hear, because I picked up a bit of what he was saying. He was really mostly lamenting about the kidnapped people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I was having trouble listening to it.
He was talking about the fact that a lot of money was allocated under the Jonathan administration and under the Yar'Adua's administration. That why are we deceiving? Because if so much money is spent to resolve this issue and it seemed like we're not really dealing with the problem. So he's pointing fingers towards government agencies that were in charge. What did they do? Would you say that we've actually been fair in the allocation of money to fighting insurgency and in dealing with the issues that fall after insurgencies? Have we really been doing what we should do with the money that was allocated? Or what do you see? Because you're closer to the situation than we are.
Okay, so I'm not a military expert, so I can't really speak to how much in terms of what has been spent on the army. But I can speak to the fallout, which is that the impact on women and girls of this insurgency has not been dealt with properly. And I'm clear, obviously, that some of the money allocated, part of it was to protect the citizens. That's not happening in this case. And the overstroke under-reporting, the reason why it seems as if it's over-reported is because the numbers are staggering. You wonder, how does somebody enter a community and take 300 people and everybody is... Do you understand?
But we just move on.
Yeah, if you walked in here and took 300 props, this place would be empty. Do you understand where I'm going with this? And then the reason why I know there's under-reporting is every time it happens, you hear a number, then the number starts to go down, then the number starts to go down. The risk with that is even if you under-report by one, that person becomes invisible because we are not counting. And the insurgents are like, well, if you didn't count this one person, then we don't have an obligation to report them, to return them.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of kidnapping that happens that we don't even hear about. Because I remember when the last girls, the Kaduna girls were taken, my cousin now sends a text that's how my friend's family, all his girls were taken in December and he had to pay money. We never heard this story.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So a lot of people are being kidnapped every day and
there's underreporting.
there's underreporting.
So when the last caller talked about money, what came to mind is that also many international organizations sent in money through NGOs to support the communities. In your view, do you think some of these monies have been properly utilized? Because many Nigerians always feel like all this bring back our girls, it's all about international funding. It's all about how we can get this access to international grants and all that. In your view, what has the NGOs, the organizations around Chibok, what have they done to really help support these communities?
Okay, so let me clarify. First and foremost, the Bring Back Our Girls did not get any international funding. The Bring Back Our Girls is a movement of women and women organizations that came together for the clamor for the release of the Chibok girls. There's no funding to Bring Back Our Girls. But in terms of the funding from the international NGOs and the local NGOs, there's a failure of responsibility on both sides. You know, if you recall, some years back, Governor Shetima did complain, and he said, all this funding that people are saying is coming to the North is coming to the Northeast. Where is it? And that's one of the issues that we find that is going on. So whenever there is a humanitarian crisis, everybody comes and they pour money at the same thing. Everybody's buying bags of rice, everybody is buying, the same thing. But the minute the cameras go away, most people disappear. I'll say it, quite. And then you then leave the communities in the wake. Now, the saddest thing about it is that you have also raised expectations because those communities were actually managing their situation by themselves. So is there a failure in terms of how the money has been, or how it's being accounted for? There's no doubt about it. We need to all, begin to ask for all the, especially the international NGOs as well, for a better system so that it's clear what the impact of this money that you're spending. It's measurable, yes. And it's so I'm not saying that maybe there was, there's clearly waste because of the overlaps, and it's not that, maybe there was any, what's it called, negative intention, but we're not doing a good job of tracking, and we're not doing a good job of really understanding and dealing with the need.